We're delighted to have Anise with us today. Anise, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
We're glad you're here, and looking forward to this conversation. So let's just jump right in and start with uh, how you came into being in recovery. What brought you into where life brought you into the rooms of recovery?
Well, there are probably a lot of things. I want to just stick with this. Okay, so I fell into the grace of a higher power. I did that following a pair of blue jeans. There was people around me getting sober, and I never heard of AA. I never heard of recovery. Where I'm from, you get the hot toddy when you're two. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, but in having a few friends that were getting sober and clean, I met a guy who was in recovery, and it was just the right thing to, I think that God's kind of dangled him out there like a carrot. And I was the jackass that fell for it.
Okay.
So,
So
that's how I got there.
Following the guy.
Following the guy.
Okay. What did you need recovery from? What was going on?
I'm a drug addict, pillhead, alcoholic. I needed recovery from a lot of things, mostly myself.
When did that start?
I think a conscious decision to use and drink alcohol started around 12.
What was going on? Something happened. And 12-year-old starts drinking. What?
Nothing particular happened. Actually, that was probably one of the best years in my childhood. My mom married a really good man, and he was really a good man. He was kind, and our life seemed to be finally going in the right direction as a kid. I think I was around the right, what's am I looking for here? The right kind of people just to get into it. We grew up poor. Most of my friends were older than me. I never related to people my age. So, I believe this with all my heart. A lot of things that children do is learned behavior. Even if they didn't learn it at home, they learned it somewhere. And I think for me, a lot of behaviors I had that young, I learned them. Now, with that being said, I come from a long line of drunks and a long line of dope fiends and a long line of carnies and gypsies, and there's some stories to be told about my family. Yeah, and just to give you a small glimpse of that, my great grandmother in 1935, when Dr. Bill and Bob were writing the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, she was breastfeeding one of her 12 kids for running moonshine. So that's a small glimpse into a life that I grew up in. The life that I lived with the drugs and the alcohol and the prostitutes and the transgender, the queens from out of the street, that was the strippers, that was everyday life, and that was normal. Drinking and partying and that was normal life. That's what everybody was doing. So I thought.
Okay. So you just kind of progressed into that lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so that's you started 12. So where'd you go from there? Where did it take you?
I went all sorts of sordid places from there. But I didn't know, I will say this, I did not know that I really had a problem until I was 27 years old. So from 12 to 27, let me just tell you, I was engaged twice, married twice, had 2 children, wanted so desperately to be in the Navy. I joined the junior military, then I dropped out of school. Home was very abusive, even after the physical abuse stopped. which stopped around 12. The verbal, mental abuse never stopped, even though the sexual abuse had kind of come to a standstill in my life. Um, so I didn't know. Oh, I was sexually abused probably from infant. I can remember being 3 the first time and being 12 the last time. But, and then I kind of wondered maybe I wasn't still sexually abused after that, but only signing up for it because it seemed like that's what you were supposed to be doing. Family, friends' boyfriends, strangers, swimming pool. Oh yeah, come on out. Okay. So yeah, lots of different.
What happened in 27?
Let's see. So I was engaged to somebody, and at 20, at 27, well, it actually started when I was 26. It's kind of crazy how it happened. I'm real grateful that it did, but I had a surgery on my jaw, and they put me on painkillers. A couple of months into that deal, I'm hooked on pills. I don't know that I'm hooked on pills. I have no idea, but I know that I'm having to take those pills, and I'm still doing all my dope, and I'm still drinking my bottle of wild turkey every day, and I think I'm functioning. I think I'm maintaining, but the doctor couldn't give me any more medicine. I was healed, and I had a nervous breakdown. And I lost all the eggs in my basket. By this point, the 2 children are already not living with me, even though I fought like hell to have a shared custody with them. Fiance number 3, almost husband number 3, can't sit in a room with me. I am extremely violent. I am extremely angry. And all the love in the world for my children and this man and even some of my family members wasn't enough. And I tried to check out. I spent 17 hours in coma on a bathroom floor. And, what I can tell you about that is I heard this very loud clang as my eyes closed, like prison doors closing, and there was nothing on the other side. Nothing. No noise, no feeling, nothing to see. Just total black, total silence. And I was there for a very long time. And when I woke up, I was embarrassed and I was angry. So anyway, so having that breakdown and coming to from that drug-induced coma, I really thought for the first time, like, there's really something wrong with you. Although people had been saying for years, like, what's wrong with you? You are crazy. I used to laugh at those statements. I used to think that, oh, I'm the crazy girl. That's cool.
Let me ask a clarifying question. In that coma, did you see the other side?
The other side for me was black and empty and abyss of nothing. I didn't see no bright lights. I didn't see no demons. I didn't see angels. I saw nothing. And that's an interesting thought in my head quite often. Because you would think that that's really not so scary, but it literally scared the shit out of me.
Couldn't check out.
Yeah, it scared me. And I was so selfish when I attempted my suicide. I did a whole video recording, apologizing to my kids, the whole I'm sorry, I'm worthless. The list of shit that I said on there, I'm like, I can never take that back. But I did learn from it. when I came to, the one question I had to say to myself was, there's something wrong with you because people do not do. See, all the way up to that point, I literally believed that every woman was being beaten behind her own front door, and everybody was drinking and doing drugs, and you know, I knew that being raped and molested, I don't really like to use molested. Some people are offended by rape, but to me, molesting a child is sugarcoating the word rape. It's rape. I don't care what you call it. With that being said, I just kind of assumed that the whole world was really operating like that, but nobody was talking about it because I grew up in a world with what goes on in this house stays in this house. And so, but coming out of that blackness, there was no doubt in my mind, like there's something wrong with you. You better go see a doctor. I did. I did go see. Actually, I went to family services is who I called. I actually asked my sister, who suffers from multiple personality disorder, has tried to check out several times, has been locked up in asylum as a result of the way we grew up. And she gave me the phone number for family services. She said, start there. And so I called and I went in, and it was kind of weird, like I'm sitting in front of somebody that I don't know, but at the same time, it was just kind of simple to say, I tried to kill myself, and I don't know why. I live a normal life. I thought that life was normal, and she started asking me some questions, and after about 2 hours of sitting in her office, she looked across the desk and said, I can't help you.
Really?
Yes.
Just like that?
Just like that. She followed that with, I'm going to make a phone call to MHMR, Mental Health and Mental Retardation. That was scary. That did not stop me from using drugs. And it did not stop me from drinking. And it did not stop me from getting on a stage every single day as a stripper. But I listened to what she said, and they did a rush assessment on me. Usually it takes 6 months to get an assessment. I was in 6 days, and that was a blessing. I got the best doctor there, man. She was awesome. She's definitely a catalyst to me getting into recovery. It's just one of these, there were so many little things that led me to getting into recovery, but of course I had a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a counselor, and a therapist, and apparently there's a little bit of difference between each one. But I was diagnosed bipolar, OCD, suicidal, homicidal, because remember I tell you I was very angry and violent. I did some damage. I hurt some people physically with my hands, women actually, and a couple of men. And so I was dangerous, not just to myself, I was dangerous to other people. And thank goodness that never stemmed out onto my kids. I never violently abused my children, thank goodness. So that's a lot of shit to swallow about yourself.
So you're under this care, there's doctors working with you. You're coming back from just having tried to take your life, and you're stripping.
And drinking and
using. Are you in AA now? Are you no, not there? Okay.
No, it took me almost a year to actually get into the rooms of recovery from there. It's like little things would happen. So they put me on a lot of medication, and like I'm a true believer. If you truly need it, by all means, please take it, because you may not be on it for the rest of your life. I can tell you that I'm medication free today. Uh, but there was a lot of intense outpatient therapy, um, and how I how I actually ended up making a meeting is this particular doctor kept telling me statistically I shouldn't have lived past 16 years old, and now I'm 27, and it kind of made sense. Like after sitting with her for so many days in a row, and this doctor so many, and hearing these things like, do you think that that's okay? And feeling hurt in my heart, and feeling that stuff that comes with that life that I grew up in and that I was now participating in. Um,
Did you think of that?
Most of it, yes, I did. I
Stripping
did.
was okay.
Absolutely. Stripping is an art. Stripping is an art. And that is where my mind was. Dancing is an art.
Dancing.
Stripping is not an art. Um, but people do what they have to do. My mom was a stripper. My mom was a prostitute. My grandmother was a stripper. My grandmother was a prostitute. Never looked down on those people. I admired them. I respected them. And that was just kind of something that was being into me. Do you understand? So, kind of skip you forward into actually getting into recovery. This doctor's telling me I need to make survivors meetings. You gotta remember, I come from a home where what happens here stays here, and you don't go and tell the world your shit.
Right.
And just so happened that before this particular breakdown, I had a very good friend that was using needles. And I was like, man, that's like self-mutilation. What do you do? You go get some help. And I thought like when she went and got help, like she went and got into a hospital somewhere. She didn't. She went to a detox center and went into recovery. And so her and I, she's now on an outpatient type thing, and we're talking, and she's never telling me you have a problem. She's never telling me you're a drug addict. And I probably would have listened to her if she would have said those things to me. But I think she knew that it was such a fragile place for me to be because I am a perfectionist. I want it perfect. I want to look perfect. I want to be perfect. I want to do everything perfect. And if I can't, I don't do it. And that's even still today in some areas of my life. But she knew it was fragile because here I was having to hear that I was really mentally messed up. And I wasn't, all that in a bag of chips like I thought. And I wasn't the strongest woman on earth like I thought. I wasn't the prettiest woman on earth. I mean, I was a model, I was in commercials, I was on radio. I had a career in the industry, not just swinging off that pole. I was known for one of Miss Texas dance off, first place, beat out 500 women in a strip contest. They actually have those. So, people go, oh, what? They actually have those. I beat out 500 women in that contest. Got my name put in magazines, all kinds of stuff. So, I wasn't all those things that I thought I was, that I had created this character, this character that I had become. And I'm finding out that actually I'm weak and I'm sick and I'm tired. My friend is in recovery, and for the first time ever since I know her, she's like all happy. Life is great. Shit's going on. And I was like, I think I can kind of go check out that thing you're doing in those meetings. Oh yeah, come on, invited me right in, and I was just like, I don't think this is what they're talking about because I don't hear anybody, but she didn't give up on me. She said something to me that said, I got really jacked up. So very respectful of other people's, like, if you don't smoke, I won't smoke around you. And if I need to go smoke, I will try to be fresh when I come back into your area,
right,
so that you don't smell it. So I got really jacked up one night, really, really high, really, really drunk, ended up miles away from home, don't know how I got home that day. I know that I drove, but and I just remember looking at her. I'm so sorry you had to see me that way. And she's like, I'm not disappointed in you. I'm disappointed in the disease. There were just little things like that just kept going. And then she introduced me to this guy. He was sober. And he was really smooth too because our first date was to go watch his mom pick up an 8-year chip. And I'm high. I'm high as a kite going in this meeting. Like, seriously, done probably 3 or 4 A-balls at this point. And my mom just hugs me like, oh, so glad to have you here, and just real welcoming. And I'm not really sure exactly how it came about, but him and I seemed to not be working. And I really wanted it to work. And I was like, I'm getting on this wagon that everybody else is on. And I got sober. I went to that meeting and I found the meanest, loudest black woman in the room. And I always could hear her say, relapse is not a requirement. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do something to do it. And I was like, what are you talking? She said, you got some balls. I said, why is that? She said, white girls don't talk to me, and they definitely don't ask me to sponsor them. I said, I don't give a fuck what color you are. I think I'm dying. And I'm willing to do whatever. And it started from there. So that's how I got into it. And I think the gods really helped me stay in it, because 2 weeks later they blessed me with a pregnancy that I damn sure didn't deserve. And I have a beautiful daughter that will be 21 on December the 7th as a result of that pregnancy. And she is my angel. And when I got pregnant with her, I did see the other side. And God's let me know, if you don't do the right thing, you won't live to talk about it. So I knew she had to be born. And that's a crazy story, I know, but it is a true story, because I got out of bed the next day and looked right at my good friend who knew me better than anybody in the world, and I said, you know, I'm superstitious, right? She said, yeah, but you can't be superstitious and then recover. I said, well, we have a problem because I'm pregnant. How do you know you're pregnant? Because God told me last night. Sure enough, 1 month later, turning a pregnancy test came back positive.
So what came next? Where do you go from there?
From there, lots of things happened.
You stopped dancing?
No, I didn't. I didn't stop dancing, and I didn't stop waitressing, and I didn't stop bartending. Uneducated. You know, I dropped out halfway through the first semester of 9th grade. So I wasn't really sure what to do. I was trying to be a good parent to my first 2 children. I was with the guy that I chased into. It was his baby. And we actually did not get back together until after she was born, about a month or so after she was born. I would go to work. I was a bartender for my end of my pregnancy, and I would go to work, and then I would get off work, and I would make a meeting. Before I would go to work, I would make a meeting, and if I was off, I'd make 3 meetings a day. And I just did whatever they told me to do. And there were a lot of people that were very instrumental. One of the things that they taught me right out the gate was that I could have fun. And I didn't stop stripping because I love to dance. It is a free place for me to go. It is the whole world stops. The voices stop, the world stops, I don't think about nothing when I'm dancing. And that's still true to this day. And we have big dance and recovery, and these old timers were like, come on, bro, let's go. Let me take you out here. And I'd be out there just dancing in the middle of some old shack of a place that we had meetings in, but I was having the best time of my life. And My little girl was born. I'm with the dad. We're, trying to make some progress. He's all of the things that I did not need in my life. But he was a liar and a cheat, and amongst many other things. He was also very much a hustler, but he was sober at the time. And he was challenging for me. He would say things to me that would make me really step up my game. So first off, let me tell you how rebellious I am. I having an argument with this guy, and he tells me something about some bullshit that they say in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I thought to myself, no one will ever use that book against me again. And meanwhile, I'm trying to work the steps, but because I had drank and used and wasn't educated, I really couldn't read that well. So I started attending meetings at this place where they had big book numbers, and they would break it down. Like I can tell you definitions from the 1935 Webster Dictionary. These guys were breaking it down so good. And every night I drive all the way, across town, go to this meeting. I'm the only one of two women in the whole building. We had to get special permission to go into this meeting. Why? Because it was an all men's school, and there was over 150 to 200 male convicts going to this meeting. But we promised that we would sit in the back, we would not talk to anybody, we would not flirt, we would not give a phone number, and I was willing because I wanted to know. Somebody needed to teach me this book because it was never going to be used against me again. And then after that meeting, we would go all the way back town and we would go to an all women's detox center. And we would break it down to them. And there were times where I actually had to push my little minivan back because I was so desperate to do it, the desperation of a drowning man. And that was true for me. That's the kind of desperation I wanted to do it perfect. And so, I can go through many, many things, but that's the initial first year. Second year wasn't easy. I was stripping, I was struggling, my baby was sick, my so-called husband is he's injured, he can't work. It's so many things were happening. I'm still not educated. I don't know what to do. Ended up working in a transmission shop down on 53rd Street in Galveston. Don't know if you've ever been there, but there's guys in the middle of the street swinging at demons. You know what I mean? So the prostitutes are coming in and out. My boss, he's a drunk. Just little things that I would see and I would be like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be there. And it's by no means judging them because it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see a beautiful young 18, 19-year-old girl walk into a greasy, nasty transmission shop and sell her ass in the bathroom in the back to the nastiest old drunk in the neighborhood. But that is heartbreaking.
Just to get her car fixed?
Just to get her car fixed, just to get her next fixed, just, whatever. That's heartbreaking stuff. Some grown man out there in nothing but his boxer shorts, literally fighting the demons, physically swinging and falling to the ground like he's being beaten to death. That's sad stuff to watch, and I didn't want that. And by that time, I was off medication. The doctor had worked with me very closely, and when I tell you they had me on medication, they had me on Prozac, Trazodone, Depakote, and lithium. I had a pill to get up, a pill to go to bed, a pill to be nice, a pill to eat, literally I had a pill to be nice.
Pill to be nice?
Yes, absolutely. Prozac is the wonder drug for me. It made me very nice to people. So.
How old are you now at this point?
I'm 48 years old. Mm-hmm.
Then, at that point.
No, and sobriety. I sobered up I sobered up on March 10th of 1998. So I was 27, and by the time I got off of medication, I was almost 29, if not already 29. And I became a speaker. They started moving me around, and I would share my story, and for some reason, men and young people could hear me. And so I got asked to speak all over, and there's a tape circulating somewhere with my name on it, and um, just a lot of things. You know, I really pursued recovery. I really pursued uh, giving it away, trying to help other people because I really believed it was saving my life.
Couple things. Uh, in recovery, in your addiction, because of addiction, worst thing that ever happened.
In my addiction or because of my addiction?
Either one.
The worst thing I think that ever happened to me in my addiction is my second husband was murdered. We were actually in a separation, and he was a very, very abusive man, and he had a lot of control over me. And we were trying to reconcile after being separated for almost a year. And a young girl killed herself in our house. Um, and her family blamed everyone who was there. And basically it was an eye for an eye type of situation, and they murdered my husband. And the last thing I had said to him was, no. The last thing I said to him on the phone earlier that evening was, I don't think I should see you because yesterday you got angry and it scared me, and you really need to get some help. And and then I spent the next 6 months of my life under investigation for his murder, because he was murdered by a woman, or so they think. Somebody at least dressed like a woman killed. That's the hardest thing I went through. The hardest thing, the worst thing that happened to me, actually happened to me, is I was in a motel room one night with some friends, and we're trying to score the deal and get things done, and nobody really knows who we are, and dealer shows up at the door, and I open the door, and I get 12 gauge shotguns laid between my eyes. And my friend's in the bathroom writing our social security numbers on toilet paper because we're about to die. And that's probably the worst thing. When I tell you that the gods watched after me for a long time before I got to recovery, they did. They did. There's a part in doing the 4-step they talk about in recovery. They talk about, let's look at the record. And a lot of people just automatically assume they should only be looking at their own record. It did not work that way for me. I looked at everybody's record in my life, and I could see how alcohol and drug addiction had always affected me, even when it wasn't my addiction. And I could see how alcohol and drugs affected me. And I had a whole record of things that I had done to myself, that I'd done to other people, that I could look at and see the nasty parts of me and see the good parts of me. But I also had to look at the record of the gods that have protected me.
What are the good parts? What are the gifts going through this journey that Anise you found? What are your gifts?
My biggest gift is I can make somebody feel loved when nobody else can. I don't know where I got that from. I think it's really important. I can get people to listen. I don't know if it's because I was a hustler for a long time, or if I was raised, or if I'm just blessed. You know, if I'm meant to do something to help others, you know what I mean? I think it's a big part of who I am. That if I literally, that is my biggest gift. I have the ability to help others when nobody else can. I can get you to listen. I can get you to pay attention, and I can also check your ass and still make you feel loved. My kids wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but they know the mom of it. So.
with this gift, what do you want to do? What's your dream?
Uh,
What do you, you've been through a lot. What do you want to do with
um,
all of this story and your journey? How do you want
it's not how I want to, it's something that I do. Every opportunity that I get, and it doesn't matter where I am. I could be in my job, I could be at church, I could be in a bar, because I still go to nightclubs, I still go dancing, I still do all that stuff.
to strip?
No, no stripping, too old for that. I am not necessarily too old for it. I just think that I'm probably not in shape for that situation. I'll cut down a tree for a living, but I'm not swinging off no poles no more. Uh, but any opportunity I get to, when I look across the room or look around me, I can always find that one person that feels like they don't fit in, or they feel less than, or they don't seem to be having a good time, or they're not connected. And I try to make that happen. I try to make every person, even people I don't like, feel connected. Because loneliness is a disease all by itself. And I know what it's like to be in a room full of 150, 200 people and feel like I'm the only one in my world. So that's a big dream. I want to be able to, when I die, I want people to say, she loved me no matter what I did. No matter how far down I went, she loved me. She taught me how to love myself. She made me feel good about myself. That's who I want to be. And I work at that diligently. And I love to give back. I love it. It makes me feel whole. That's the selfish side. That's the selfish thing, because it makes me feel great on the inside.
So stay there. What so what still needs to change? Where's y'all have room to grow? I mean, you come to
I'm an asshole. I am.
Also,
Well, because there's the truth, and then there's the real truth, and then there's the raw, real truth.
okay.
And I'm the raw, real truth a lot of times when I probably shouldn't be. Because not everybody is, solid on the outside. I'm probably more of an asshole to my own kids. And I tell them all the time, I'm raising you to take care of yourself when I'm gone. I have friends that will literally pick up the phone and go, I know I'm going to regret asking you this question, but I need you to be honest with me. And I will rip the scab off. That mask that people like to wear, I'll take it off of you.
And you call that being an asshole?
Yeah, I do, but at the same time, I can look at them and say, I'm not really trying to be an asshole. I love you and I don't want this to happen. There's probably a softer way to do that stuff, but I don't have it in me. So if I could work on something, it'd probably be not to be such an asshole, and I tell you this because my daughter actually just did it to me. She ripped off some scabs, and I was like, oh, dare her, like, wounded now, but she didn't say anything that wasn't accurate or true. And she didn't say anything that wasn't loving. What is it? The four agreements: kind, loving. I can't even think of the other two, but those two. I'm missing the kind part. Just not always the softest person to talk to.
What do you think got you through to keep you here?
I think
With all the shit that you.
I think that, listening to somebody else just say this earlier, being an alcoholic and a drug addict was a benefit because a human being can only go through so much before they break. And I went through more shit by the time I was 12 than most people go through in a whole lifetime. I experienced and survived and lived through things that human beings shouldn't ever have to see or hear or go through, period, much less a child. So, alcohol and drugs made it really easy to shut that world out. Create this superior being I thought I was, it also, even because in my addiction, I was still being abused. In my addiction, my husband was abusive. Both of my first husbands were very, very violent men. And,
You drawn to them. You drawn to
oh, they pick you. You can line 100 women up against a wall. You can line 100 men up against a wall. And an abuser's going to pick the one guy or the one woman that's been abused every time. If they are an abuser, it's like they can see it on and I learned that in therapy. Put me in a room full of 100 women, and although I haven't been abused in over 25 years, longer than I've been sober, an abuser can pick it. But the good thing is that I also now know how to see the abuser. I didn't see him. You were always Mr. Charming and Mr. Wonderful.
now you gotta see them.
Oh, absolutely. I see a flag go up, you gotta go, deuces, have a nice life. Take that shit somewhere else and get home for it. And it's amazing. Some of the people that you would just think, oh my God, everybody thought my husbands were wonderful. They're so wonderful. Meanwhile, they're killing me at home. But that's, through all the stuff, through all the abuse, the rape, all of that, I think the drugs and the alcohol is what got me through till I made it to that doctor that I tell you she saved my life. She did, because she helped me to understand that all that stuff wasn't my fault. And all that stuff wasn't okay. And it was okay to be angry. But what wasn't okay is how I was dealing with the anger. And why was I angry? I didn't even know why I was angry. You're looking at a lady right here. When I was 11 years old, I whipped the living shit out of a bus driver on a bus on the way to school. At 11. Took her smooth out. Like literally, you're looking at the same woman that at 26 years old dropped a lady in the hospital with a coma and half of her face rearranged. I was so angry and so violent. And all of that came from that abuse and the fear that came with that abuse. And I tell you, now in my life, that is the first thing I look for. When things start kind of getting shaky, I go, what are you afraid of? What's scaring you right now? And a lot of times it's not like right on the surface. I kind of got to dig for that stuff. After getting sober, how have I coped and survived with all that stuff? It's a tool. That abuse, that rape, that spiritual abuse, that mental abuse, it's all tools for me now. Because I can sit down with a woman and I can convince her to leave that life behind. I can sit down with a child and they can talk to me about what's happened to them and I can give them help. I can sit down and I've sat down with some of the meanest, scariest men I've ever laid my eyes on, and I can bring them to a place of tears because they know they're not alone. They know it. They can feel it. It helps me to be empathic to what they're going through, or empathetic, and they can see that. It's just like an alcoholic can help an alcoholic understand what's happening to them way before a doctor. Drug addicts, people that have been through the stuff I've been through, when they have somebody sitting in front of them going, I'm lucky to have a face. There's 5 scars on my face, and this is how it happened. I'm lucky that I survived jumping from a moving vehicle to keep from being beat. Um, so, oh yeah, and then they start talking, and it's amazing when you watch that blackness just come right off their soul. It just you watch it leave on them, and it turns the light on, and then at the same time, it's like, yes, this is wonderful. And they know somebody cares, somebody loves them, somebody's judging them because they were abused, or they chose Mr. Wrong, or any of that stuff. So that's how I survived. It's a tool. Yeah. And yes, I think the gods had a lot to do with that. I don't think they necessarily are to blame for everything, but I think the gods have allowed me to survive things that most people wouldn't, so that I could uh, use it to help other people. And I love that. I love it. My dad, I didn't grow up with him. My dad like it. If I would have raised you, you would have grew up different. And I said, well, that's a wonderful thought. But I'm sure glad I grew up the way I did because it made me who I am. And today I love myself. I can appreciate who I am. So
Thank you, Anise.
thank you.
You embody that never happened, bro.
Yes. I'm glad I'm broken.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.